Hello everyone, and thanks for watching this video tutorial. Here today's topic is Computer Science 2210 Paper 2 Problem Solving Skills on Pre-Release Material. Now this paper consists of three sections, three tasks, task 1, task 2 and task 3 with two sections, section A and section B. In section A, now coming on to the section A, you are advised to spend no longer than 40 minutes answering this section. That means if you have prior knowledge on attempting these types of questions, or if you have programming background, so at least not more than 40 minutes you have to concentrate to complete this task within 40 minutes. Now the next message: do not attempt task 1, 2 and 3 now. Use the pre-release material and your experience from attempting the task before the examination to answer question 1. Now see that the task 1, a data logger records the temperature on the roof of school twice a day, at midday and midnight. Input and store the temperatures recorded for a month. You must store the temperatures into one-dimensional. Here understand the word to one-dimensional. That means you have to declare two separate arrays with one-dimensional status. One for the midday temperature and one for the midnight temperature. All the temperatures must be validated on entry and any invalid temperatures rejected. You must decide your own validation rules. You may assume that there are 30 days in a month. Now they have defined simply what you have to do. You have to declare the arrays separately, two different arrays. It could be midday temperatures or it could be midnight temperatures with the range of 30 days repetitions. Now coming on to the task 2, to understand the question, calculate the average temperature for midday and the average temperature for midnight. That means you have to separately calculate the temperature for midday and the separate calculation for midnight, and then you have to calculate the average of midday and midnight, and you have to output these averages with a suitable message for each one. Now in task 3, what you are required to do, select the day with the highest midday. That means what was the highest temperature in the midday, you have to store that thing, and the day with the lowest midnight temperature, and the whole day you have to record the midnight temperature, the lowest midnight temperature. Then you have to output each of these temperatures, the corresponding day and a suitable message. Now I am reading the task 3 again. Select the day with the highest midday temperature. That means you have to store the midday temperature when it is maximum, and the day with the lowest midnight temperature when it is the least value during midnight. Then output each of those temperatures, the corresponding day and a suitable message. Now your program must include appropriate prompts for the entry of data. Here you are required to prompt the user with proper messages, and to prompt, let's suppose, taking the values and something like that. With the error messages and other outputs need to be set out clearly and understandably. All variables, constants and other identifiers must have meaningful names. Each task must be fully tested. Here you are required to declare all the variables in a way that their names should be meaningful. That means, for example, if you are declaring the midday variable or midnight variable, even you can declare with the full name mid, mid, day, midday, temp, ture, temperature, or temp. It's up to you, but it should have meanings. So continue with the next, the question number 1 in relation to this pre-release material. Now see, now you can see the question. Question 1, part A, all variables, constants and other identifiers should have meaningful names. Here you have to understand task 1 only. In task 1 you have to store the midday temperatures and midnight temperatures in array. That means you have to declare total number of arrays for 1 month, as you have studied the task 1 in pre-release material. Now here the solution can be, let's suppose it could be your given name. I have kept it my m day, that means midday temperature, midday m day temp 1:30, that means 1 till 30, that means it has a place or location, 30 locations from 1 till 30. Or you can declare as midday temp 0 to 29 or midday temp empty as well. You can see the empty declaration of the midday temp with the empty square box, or midday temp 30 directly, or midday temp 29. Here 29 means 0 to 29 equals to 30. Here 30 means you have simply said that you have 30 locations for midday temperatures. For midnight the same, I have followed the same structure by changing the name m night temperature. Now you can verify that the name is meaningful. M night temperature 029, 0:29, or M night temperature empty with the empty square brackets, or M night temperature 30 or 29, 0 to 29. Now part 2, they have asked you the question that you have to calculate the temperature only for 1 week. You can see that the 1 week rather than 1 month. Now here what you are required to do, write a new array declarations that you should use now. Midday temp, that means you have to redeclare the array, that is of 1 mark. That means you are just shortening the month only for 1 week. Midday temp 1:7 or midday temp 1:7, same approach you can derive from the above lines. Now here you can see midday temp 1:30. Here I can write midday temp 1:7, or I can just directly write midday temp 7 only. Or here the same way, midnight temperature 1 to 7, or directly 7. Part 3, declare 2 other variables that you have used and state what you use each one for. Now for example, as you know that the count, we have put er as a doer to it, that means it is a name to count something. It must be integer to excel the other values in the array location, or you can say to forward the values or locations in the array. Now the use of this counter, or let's suppose it is counter, you can write a, b, any letter, any combination of letters, but that should have integer value and can proceed with the array location. As the array location changes, the loop, the counter position must be changing. Now variable 2, here you can just take the, let's suppose, counter integer, and other than this counter integer you can use, let's suppose, high value or high noon. Hereby this is the counter, this is not that counter, this is the value, then the real value. Real value means the value which you will include here. I am just going to add it here. High noon, let's suppose, high noon, because counter you have already used, and this is the real value, that means real type integer, not integer, this is real type. The data type must be real. Real means to store the fraction value, let's suppose 32.5, 36.7 and something like that. So you can use this thing as well. So, and to use the midday temperature for highest values, Now the use for this, to use the midday temperature for highest values. Now again I am repeating this thing. Declare two other variables that you have used and state what you used each one for. The first one is the counter, to move forward with the array locations. So the counter will take place the array locations, repeat one by one after another. And the use of this counter loop, counter value, to use as loop counter when inputting data to temperature, which is the array. Now variable 2 counter, this is not the counter, this is basically high noon. It could be HN or noon, whatever you would like to use, but the data type must be real. The use of this variable is to store midday temperature for highest values. This is also midday temperature array, right? So in this first part of question number 1, you can see that the 3 parts you have solved in a way that it has relation with the task 1, and you have to answer the questions related to this task 1. Now moving on to next. Now here you are required to write an algorithm to complete task 2. Now in task 2 you have to write the algorithm, which is of 4 marks to 6 marks. Now here you are required to write an algorithm which is of 5 marks, right? So you have to write the algorithm or pseudocode. Basically this is a pseudocode. Now write an algorithm to complete task 2 using either pseudocode or programming statements. I remind you, programming statements or a flowchart. This means if they do not mention about the pseudocode or flowchart, if they are requiring you to write only the programming statements, sometimes when they are, it's up to them, when they are requiring you to write only the pseudocode or programming statements or flowchart. So in that condition you are fixed. Now you can see use temperatures for 1 week only. You should assume that task 1 has already been completed. Now on the basis of completion of the previous task, that is task 1, you declared some variables like midday total. You have not created, but you had created the midday variables. That means the variables in which you store the temperature, like midday temperature or midnight temperature. Now here you have to add the total to the minimum midnight total and midday total. So you have declared the variable midday total equals to 0 and midnight total equals to 0. Now you will again start, because you are calculating for 1 week, as I am just going to underline the word 1 week. You have to calculate for 1 week. So you have initialized the repetition for 1 to 7. You can see this here clearly. Now on the other hand, you have to just add the total to midday total. That is midday total equals to midday total plus midday TMP count. That means the total number of occurrences of 1 week temperature. So this will store the total number of temperatures stored in midday temperature array with the help of count. And now next is the midnight total. Again the same totaling structure. Midnight total equals to midnight total plus midnight TEMP temperature count. So the midnight temperature which has stored 1 week temperature, now you are moving into the midnight temperature with the help of count. That the count will locate all 7 locations in an array, and you are ending the counter over here with the help of next count. That means it will keep on continuing until all the totals are done. One more thing which you can do, you can even separately total. Make total to make midday total equals to midday total plus midday TMP count. Let's suppose midday TMP 1 plus midday TMP 2 plus midday TMP 3 until 7. Instead of this thing, midday total equals to, here you are taking the help of the counter. That is why you are writing this way, midday total equals to midday total plus midday TEMP count, and same with the midnight. Now continuing with that, as you know that you have to calculate the running totals within the loop, and if you want to calculate the average, you have to end the loop first, and then you have to declare the variable, or if you have not declared that, it's okay, but you have to mention it. You have to name the average. I have kept the name for midday average equals to midday total divided by 7, and then midnight average equals to midnight total divided by 7, because we are calculating 7 days. Now you have to print the average midday temperature is midday average. Simple as that. See, the calculation is here and the previous calculation was here. This is the next count. I'm just highlighting this thing. The loop ends over here. Again, you can see this is the body of loop. You can see this clearly. You have to add the running total, so you have kept it within the body of loop. Now you want to calculate the average. You can just keep the variable out of the loop, and then you have to add the variable which is added during the run of the loop. So you can see that all the values which m day total has stored in it, you have take the value out from that, and then you have divided by the 7. Same as with the midnight. Midnight average equals to midnight divided by 7, and now you are in a position to print. These are the print statements. Now you can see it can print directly the average, the variable here in which you have stored the data, the running data or the running total with the array, with the help of array and loop, and then the average you have calculated here. Now print the average midnight temperature is midnight average. The average midnight temperature, the average midday temperature, you have calculated both the things and you have now displayed them. Now moving on to the next question. Give a set of midday temperature data. Midday temperature data. See, I'm just highlighting this thing. Midday temperature data for a week. That means for just for 7 days. You can see the length of the data is 7. That could be used to check your validation. Now the validation, let's suppose you can see rows for task 1. Explain why you choose this data set. Now let's suppose day 1 you had a 29 degrees centigrade. Then next day you had a 30 degrees centigrade, then 31.5, then 32.2, then 33, then 28, then 29.7. So which one is the least? Here according to me, this 28 is the least one. Okay, now to validate this data, we are required to fix it by saying that we have a normal data. Now you can see the reason for choice is that why are you fixing this? To have the normal data because of validation. Normal data range that should be accepted by the system. Otherwise, let's suppose if you put minus negative values, so it is not known as normal data. So this was the output of the question. Now part D of this question, explain how you select the day with the highest midday temperature. Part of task 3, you may include pseudocode or programming statements as part of your explanation. Now understand the question. Basically in this question you have to explain it to gain all the marks, otherwise the explanation marks will be deducted. Moving on to the question derivation. Now see, now you can see note first. Part D requires explanation and pseudocode to get all 6 marks. Basically this question is of 6 marks. If you write only pseudocode or programming statements with no explanation, you will get only 4 marks. Now the explanation will include, you have to tell about the set the variable highest midday to a large number with minus sign, like that means the highest midday could be this negative, that let's suppose minus 999. Then you have a as you know why we keep these variables, let's suppose these values to incorporate in your program, to just what is the maximum. If the maximum it will receive, then definitely according to your validation or restrictions, the program will assign the new prompts to the user to normalize the situation. Now loop, you have to define loop. You will be using loop to identify total number of 30 inputs or total number of 7 inputs as required by the question. Let's suppose if you are working only for 7 days or 1 week, so you will have to declare a loop for 7. Let's suppose for loop for a equals to 1 to 7 or for count equals to 1 to 7 times to check each midday temperature in turn. Next is you have to tell that why is this going to have. Check midday temperature against highest midday. As we compare the values, as you know that if the highest value is lesser than the stored value, then you have to swap the values. So this check you have to, or this situation you have to tell explicitly, right? So if you are unable to tell this, so you will lose 2 marks. Now check midday temperature against highest midday, mid temperature greater than highest midday. Replace value in highest midday by midday temperature. That means what you know is the swapping status or swiping mechanism. That means whenever you get the highest value, you have to compare and you have to shuffle the value with the newest value which you receive in turn, and then you have to assign the new value with the stored value, that is, let's suppose highest. Let's suppose if minus 999 is the highest value and you receive 1000, so 1000 will be swapped with the minus 999. Now replace value in highest midday by mid temperature, then store array index. Yes, this is what the main problem here. Store array index in midday month day or midday weekday. If you are calculating month day, then you will be assigning the array index with the midday of the month and then or midday of the week. Then you will be outputting the highest midday outside the loop as you have just done it, and then you will be outputting the midday month or midday weekday, which should be outside the loop. Now continuing with the pseudocode. After explanation, let's suppose I have written in a points form 1 2 3 4 till 7 points. So you can just narrate in a properly organized paragraphs that first you are going to do this, second you are going to do this, and third you are going to do this. So you have to include your proper meaningful comments or meaningful explanation to the questions, to the procedure you are going to incorporate in a program. Now coming on to the pseudocode or programming statements, as you can see that the highest midday temperature is -999. Then for count equals to 1, here I must clear this thing that sometime if there is any confusion, let's suppose we keep small value higher and we keep highest value 0 and something like that, so it can swap. You do not confuse. If they are demanding you to just fix it, you can just set it in this way. So there is no further explanation for this thing if you are this thing, because they are not calculating smallest and highest, or there is no range for this thing. So you have to just keep this thing with the maximum number. Let's suppose 100 which is of 3 digits, 100, so you can have the maximum number within the 3 digits. Now continuing with this, line number 1, highest midday equals to -999. Then you have for count equals to 1 to 7, because you are calculating, you are writing the pseudocode for 7 days. Then if you are starting now, if midday temperature count, right, greater than highest midday, then highest midday equals to midday time count. You have know this condition very well. So now midday count or midday month equals to count. That means midday month should be equal to count, or midday week should be equal to count. Then end if the next count, then you are in a position to print the output. Print the highest midday temperature was highest midday on day count. So in this way you can easily define this thing. Normally you can see, if you have noticed, we have not we discussed about this thing that you have to take input, but here you are just analyzing this thing without input. You have to just tell the condition that this condition can be fixed here. So now this is the part D which you knew about. Now moving on to the next part, section B. Now in section B you can see that the simple question is given to you. You have to find the error according to the line. Read this section of program code that should input 10 positive numbers and then output the smallest number which is input. On line number 1 you can see small is written, same as here. Again the conflict creates. In the previous page you understood that you have set the highest value to -999. Now here again you have a question. Small equals to 0, which you know that this is an error. It should be 999 or it should be 100, the maximum value. Now counter equals to 0, repeat input number. If number less than small, then num equals to small. You have to understand the condition, what should be the correct step. Then counter equals to counter plus 1, then print small, then until counter less than 10. Now on line number 1, here you can see you can set, or if you rewrite this algorithm, you can write small equals to 999 or counter equals to 0, repeat, it is okay, input number. On line number 5, if number less than small, understand, if number less than small, so if the number you are taking input in a number, so again you are assigning small to number. So here this is an error. Now this should be swipe, small should come over here, and you have the number which should be removed from this place, and it should be right hand side to the equal sign. Now this is the swiping of values. Now counter equals to counter plus 1. Now again print small, which has come before the loop ends. This should be 999, or it could be 100. Then until counter equals to 10, here this is the error. Then until counter equals to 10, or it could be greater than equals to 10, or it could be greater than 9. Now the explanation and the correction now we see on the next page. On line numbers we have located the errors. On line number small was 0, this should be small 999 because you are taking the numbers in 3 digits. Line 5, if it should be written, if number less than small, again you can see the highlighted, this was the error. Now you have corrected, then small equals to num, because you are receiving the value in num, that is why it should be num being assigned to small, right? So this is the correction, right? So this is the correction point which I have highlighted here with the red circle, right? So this is the correction. Now line number 8, until this should be ended with the proper condition, until counter equals to 10, you can see this, or greater than equals to 10 or greater than 9, because you are fixing it whenever it comes to 10. If in a greater than condition, it will stop, or if it is greater than equals to 10, first it will equals to 10 and then it will become greater when the next time the counter will run. And on counter, until counter equals to 10 means it is when equals to 10 it will terminate. Now line number 7, you have a print statement there which has written before the loop ends. In a case that when you have to find the total numbers, you have to just print the value after the loop, or if you want to show the running, it is different. Now so you have to take out this statement from the repeat loop. So print small after the end of repeat loop. So here you have completed the question. Now moving on to the next question. Now you have rewritten the solution for the previous question, error correction section B. A small equals to 999, counter equals to 0, repeat. The construct started over here, loop construct, then input number, if number less than small, then small equals to number, then counter equals to counter plus 1, and so on, the until counter equals to 10, and the last is the print small, which is the smallest number found in the 10 in the session of 10 numbers. Now you can see the 10 numbers, when it will take 10 inputs, it will find if the number is smaller than within the 10 numbers, it will print the smallest after the 10 numbers are done. Now coming on to the next question. Now here, this is the question 3, which you have to explain and understand the dry run about this question. Now you can see the question number 3, which is of flowchart, where you have to trace the values. Now I'm reading the question. The flowchart below inputs the weight of a number of parcels in kilograms. Parcels weighing more than 25 kilograms are rejected. A value of -1 stops the input. Now, as I have told you before, that -1, this is known as terminate value, and this is rogue value. The following information is output: the total weight of the parcels accepted and number of parcels rejected. Go through the flowchart first. You have declared total as 0, then you have reject as 0. Now why you have written them in a process box? Because you are setting to 0, total equals to 0. The total arrow sign means is assigned with the 0. Total equals to total equals to total, total equals to 0, total equals to 0, reject equals to 0. Now these are the two initialized values with total and reject. The next statement, you can see you are inputting the weight, and after inputting the weight you are testing with the condition here: is weight equals to -1 or -1. If the condition satisfies to yes, so it has the operation written over here in a terms of, so you can see the output total will be rejected, and this sign, as you know, used to show input and output. Now if this condition satisfies, then this will output total and will reject the values and then come to an end. In unsatisfied way, if it is not true here, if it is not yes, then it is continuing with the no option, and then again it will be testing the weight whether it is greater than 25 kilograms, greater than 25 kilograms. If this condition satisfies towards yes, that means if it is going to be yes, then it has to reject equals to reject +1. that means it will check total number of weight when greater than 25 kilograms. If there are number of series, number of kilograms with the test data, which we will be having in the next page, so you will see that how this will reject the values and how will this calculate the total weight and total number of rejection. If it does not satisfy the condition, then you are again performing some action towards total, where total equals to total plus weight. That means you have to add the total weight to total. The weight values the total number of kilograms which you are inputting from the user or from the system or machine. So you have used a total variable in which you are adding the received weights, the kilograms which you receive. Let's suppose 1 kg, 2 kg, 18 kg, 25 kg, 27 kg. These types of values will be stored when they are being input. If it is greater than 25 kilograms, then it will not be the part of the total. And on the other hand, you can see the reject total will continue to keep inputting the values until the correct values are input. So now taking the look at the next slide to see how does this trace table fill. You will fill the trace table. So now see this. Now I have tried to associate this flowchart with this trace table. So you can see the values which I have. The first value 1.8 and the total is 0. Now you can see the total is 0 is here, right? And this is the reject is here. You can see this is here. It is kept 0. Now you can see the total and reject column are these. here. Now the weight, you are inputting the weight. Now this is here, you can see this weight column is here, and the condition which will test and which will satisfy on the condition which is written here is weight equals to -1. Yes, if in the cases we have, now in the -1 case you will see that the program is terminated and the output is displayed here. Now this is the output column which you have to see in the last. Now output total. Now the first value is 1.8, you can see 1.8 is here, right? Then second value 1.8 is the total here, you can see this, the total is here. Now next value which is greater than 25, right? You can see this here, which is greater than 25 as the condition you put over here that satisfy this condition. Yes, that means reject occurs one times, that's it, okay, right? The next value is 7, so the total, as you have written, the total equals to total plus weight, this is here, you can see this is here. Now you can verify this thing, the total, the weight was 7 kilograms, when added to 1.8 this becomes 8.8, and this is the value you store here. Then next value is 11.3, yes, this is done, this is also done, this is also done, and then you have this thing, this is when added to 8.8 this becomes 20.1, right? Okay. Now next is your 10 kg, this is added when this becomes 32 kg, 31 kg, right? 20.1 when added 10 kg it becomes 30, then you have added 2.5, just 2.5, this becomes 32.6 kilograms, the total is being added. Now the next value is 25.2, you can see this is the rejected value, this is also the rejected, and this is the rejected value. Now the rejected value becomes 2, yes, it is okay because the value was 25.2, so this is rejected. This is I'm just putting cross over here so that you can identify this thing, and these are the rejected values which have cross over here, it is not counted. Now next value is 5, yes, it is okay, less than 25 kilograms and not negative value, so this becomes 37.6 kilograms, yes, it is okay. Now next value is 19.8, yes, this is okay, and then the total becomes 57.4, now this is okay. Now next value which is coming 29.3, yes, this is greater than, so this cannot be added, and this is rejected. So total number of rejects we have 3, and the last value which the system has received is -1. So you can see this is when -1 is given to the system, it has terminated the system. As you can see, the rogue value, the stop value, so -1 was the stop value. Now the output will be generated, and you will see that, so you will see that the total the last value till 19.8 has been calculated, and now 57.4 the total weight input, and with the 3 rejections, that is 3. So in this way you have to evaluate the values and to fill in the trace tables values. So now I am hopeful that you will have understood this thing, and again I am just underlining and overlining the values which are rejected, and this is the rogue value which I have put a circle over here so you can see this clearly. Now I am hopeful that you will understand how to fill in the trace table and how to trace the value by using flowcharts. So I hope you will understand this thing. Moving on to the next question. Matching the data types with their valid literals. Now you can see that data type integer, real, character, string and boolean. Now you know about the use. If none of you focus on this thing, that what is integer, what is real, you must focus on this. You are already maths students, you must know about what is integer, what is real. Real means when you have a decimal in between the numbers. Integer means a simple unsigned value. That means without positive integer. We do not mean here that you have to put a sign integer, let's suppose positive integers or negative integers. No, here the simple integer value, that means that without any fractions, without any dot values, without any decimal values. As you can see, this is here. Now integer goes to 2 directly. You can see this is here, this is integer, this is known as integer. Then real you have, that means which have fractions, which can calculate the percentages or the fraction values, such as pi value 3.14, something like that. So you can see this is here, you can see this is here. And then you have a character. Character means only one, it could be A, B, C, D till the last letter Z, or it could be when stored as character. So remember that this is the character, only characters. It could be a single one, single entity, that means single value, only just a character. So this is known as character, which is given as example here. This is here, you can see, right? Then you have a string. String means a combination of characters which is enclosed with the quotation marks, or you can say that is speech marks, with which is stored with a speech mark. You can see that double quote over here, and then the word is written over here, that is 12, or it could be any string. Let's suppose your name, your institution name, anything like that, which could be used as a valid string value or valid literal, which have the meanings. So the last one is the boolean, where you just show whether it is true, yes or no, on and off. So make sure that all these things are done in a way that you remember them all, because the another question which you will see that in the next one, next video, that will be on the basics of the totaling mechanisms and calculation mechanisms, something like that is similar to this structure. So I hope that you will understand this thing. Data types, I again repeat this. Integer means simple value, that is single number. Real means with the fractions, that is with the decimal values. Character is only single character with single quote. And then string is with the multiple combination of characters. It could be any meaningful word or sentence enclosed with the speech marks. And then you have a boolean over here, that is true or false, and 0 and 1, yes or no. So in this way you can solve this question. So moving on to the next question. Now here you can see the last question, maybe explain the difference between a variable and a constant in a program. As you know that variable is used to store data that can be changed during program running, and a constant stores the data that does not change during the run of a program. On the other hand, question number 6, identify 3 different loops structures that you can use when writing pseudocodes. The first one is, for, this is the expressions. 2, the expressions for, for example, for A equals to 1 to 100, right? So this is the expression, this is known as expression, this is known as expression. And then next, okay, then this is the body, this is the body or statement, and then you have a next, 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 right? Next A, this is what the loop, for loop. I've made the same thing, right? Now while do, the same is here, condition applies here in while, and after do statements, this is I'm putting C for conditions and D for S for statements, and then and while here again repeat, and here is the statements, S for statements, and until here C for condition. So now you can see that all these structures do have meanings when you put the statements in between these bodies, loops bodies. So all the information will start executing with side by with executing with the loops until the loop ends. Let's suppose if loop set to 1 to 100, so the statement which is written in between the loop body will execute total number of times. Let's suppose that means 100. So I hope you will understand. So the simple thing, you have to remember all the structures here. So I'm hopeful that you will like this, and if there is any problem, so you can refer back and you will get all those things easily by watching number of times or multiple times, or you can just keep watching time to time, so you will clear all your concepts. And I hope that this will work a lot, and till the next tutorial comes, thanks for watching.